What's going on, guys? Today we are taking a look at some Furitek products for this guy, the Kyosho Mini Z 4x4. So this Jeep Rubicon is pretty awesome, super detailed. I'm sure you guys have seen these before. This is a completely stock one other than the wheels and tires. Now, I want to take this thing and make it as capable as some of my SCX24s, and with Furitek, I think I can get that taken care of. So, we're going to try it out and see if these upgrades are any good. I noticed these on the website, picked them up immediately, they were on pre-order, and I just recently got them. So, let's take a look at the parts that we're going to be installing today. So these are all the parts I think I need for this build. I'm not 100% sure. I haven't really seen any instructional videos or anything like that, so I'm going to be winging it, and you guys are coming along for the ride. But I've got the Furitek Lizard, I've got the Mini Komodo, and this one specifically says for Kyosho 4x4. I've got the motor mount, which I believe I'm going to need to install this motor. And then I've got this, the Furitek Digital Servo Controller. I'm not sure what this is for exactly, but I bet once I take the Kyosho apart, I'm going to be able to figure it out. So, let's tear apart the truck. So the first thing we need to do is disassemble the truck and take a look and see what we're working with. So, first step, take the body off. If you haven't taken one of these bodies off of these Kyoshos, it's not the hardest thing in the world, but it can be kind of awkward. So these little tabs right here hold the posts in place. Hold them down with your finger, flip over to this side, do the same thing over here, and voila, we got it off. Okay, so this does have a light kit installed as well. That's one of the Kyosho light kits. That was a pretty simple install. It's just a plug and you put the LEDs in the light buckets. This is kind of the stock base truck that we're going to be starting with. I do notice right away that the brushed motor sits here off to the side, and there's this clasp or clip over it that looks like it holds it in place. So we're going to be taking that apart. What I want to do first is get the batteries out of this thing. So let's get the batteries out just so I don't shock myself on whatever I'm doing. All right, now that we got the batteries out, this little battery helper outer strap thing, you put the batteries over it, you pull it, they pop out. It's kind of in the way, so I spun it around so it'll hopefully stay tucked out of the way for the video, but it is going to be dangling there for a bit. So I think the first step is going to be taking this motor out, or at least get a better look at what we got going on here. So we undid this. I think actually the next step should be to take these sidebars off of each side. They're kind of right in the way of what we're working on here. So let's grab the tools and get those off. All right, with those out of the way, let's see what we can find out about this motor. So this just kind of pops right off. And this looks like it clamped onto either side of the motor, which also holds this clamp in place. Kind of a cool design, I guess. And the 6, there's a 1 and a 6. Looks like the 6 or the 9, whatever it is, was on the inside of the motor. Just in case I need to put that back, I'll make a note of it. And then the motor is pretty much free. And there's a lot of play there, so I imagine that the gear mesh was held in place with that 6 and 1 number designation on the motor holder. Next step looks like we're going to need to take, oh, there's a clip right here. This clip exposes the spur gear. Looks like that's where the motor meshes up to it and transfers into the transmission down here. Again, guys, this is the first time I've ever taken apart one of these, so you're just along for the ride with me. I'm gonna be talking to myself out loud. Okay, I've got 2 screws pulled out of the ESC receiver combo here, but I just realized I'm not 100% sure how this plugs in. If I need the receiver and ESC combo in there to plug this into, I'm just not 100% sure how it works. So what I'm actually gonna do is take this and the motor, plug them into this, put the batteries back in, and see if I can get it to run correctly before I disassemble all this and find out I won't even be able to make it work yet. Okay, so I went ahead and took the receiver and ESC kind of out of the vehicle. One of the issues I'm running into is I've got the motor plugged into the Lizard. Now, this plug here, this 3-wire, and this plug here, this is going to be the power. This should be the connector to the ESC receiver. I also have this adapter, I believe is what this is. It says Digital Servo Controller. adapter. So it's got another 3 plug and what looks like a 6 plug maybe. The only ports on this are these 2 connectors here. Not sure which is which or what they do, and the motor looks like it screws in straight into the ESC here. I'm guessing the steering servo has like 6 wires, or it's a 5 wire, and that's why I needed the adapter, but I'm not 100% sure. So I'm just gonna film taking this apart, looking at it, plugging things in, probably speed the footage up, and then if I find anything interesting or I come across something, I'll slow it back down and explain what I found. Okay guys, so based on what I see here, it is a 5 wire steering servo. So the adapter here is a 5 wire steering servo into a 3 wire. And then I have this 3 wire as well. Neither one of these is going to plug into this ESC receiver combo. So I'm going to have to swap this out or replace it with something. Fortunately I have a spare Gen 1 SCX24 ESC receiver combo and the original receiver. So I can plug both of these into this and swap it out for this. Now mounting this is going to be interesting because it's not quite the same shape or size, but I think that's the only way I'm going to be able to run a Furitek setup on this unless they've got some other conversion part for this that I couldn't see on their website or they haven't made it yet. But for now, we're just going to run this because I know it'll work and go from there. Okay, so I've got the motor plugged into the Lizard, plugged into the old axial thing, and then I did go ahead and disassemble the board. I took it out of the case so I could easily unplug the 5 wire steering servo, which I have in the adapter, which is also plugged into this. So we're gonna plug a battery in and see if this works. Okay, we got lights on the steering servo. Everything looks like it's on. Let's test the, nice, okay. It's pretty twitchy. Ooh. It's a very, very fast servo now. Being powered with a 30C discharge 2-cell LiPo on that servo rather than some AAAs makes it very, very twitchy and touchy. And then the motor. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that's gonna work just fine. Okay, so we now know we can get the motor and the steering servo to work with this. We just have to get the rest of this pulled out of the vehicle and we'll be good to go. In order to remove the old ESC receiver, the wires are soldered to the board and then soldered to the ends of these plugs here. So I just had to pop them off of here. They slid right up. It was kind of difficult, as you could probably see there, but we went ahead and got that out. So now we're just left with a bare bones chassis and the 5-wire servo still attached. Now I'm thinking the battery, this one's a little big. I was hoping it would just sit in the old battery tray. Wouldn't that be handy? I can always find a smaller battery. Maybe the ESC controller does fit in there pretty much perfectly, other than the on and off switch. Who uses an on and off switch anyways? I might just bust that thing out of there, but that fits in there pretty perfect. So that might be where the ESC goes. For now, what we gotta do, so I was also looking at the motor. So this is the motor mount, and this mounts right inside here, like so, and then that's gonna sit in here. So this motor mount that they made fits pretty much perfectly right inside the original spot. And I was looking, I don't see any screw holes, so those on the outside there, I'm not sure if that's for an adjustment of some kind, but I do know that the original clamp that went over will also hold this in place. Snaps in place and then it'll hold it there. So we just got to get the gear mesh right and figure out how to get that in there right. But for now, it's looking like it'll line up okay. So I got the motor mounted in there with the 2 screws it came with. It sits slightly off center, but it spins freely inside there. So that's good. And I believe it sits off center so that it'll mesh up with this correctly. Now I did have to take the original pinion off of the brushed motor. It just slid right on over the brushless motor here. Push it in just a little bit and then we're going to slide it in place. And then that's a pretty good solid mesh right there. It could be a little closer, but I think that's going to work. So I'm going to pull that pinion out just a little further. Next we're going to grab this clamp here. It has a tiny little tab underneath. You can kind of see it right there. It's not really focusing. Just need to get that hooked underneath there, like so. And over the top of the motor mount. You should be able to hear it click in. And I've noticed an issue. So, okay, first issue I've run into is the motor mount clip needs to be more this way, but the wire is currently in the way. So I must have mounted the motor inside here incorrectly. I believe the wire needs to come out the side here. It should have enough clearance, maybe. I mean, if it's too much in the way on the top, it should be too much in the way on the side too, shouldn't it? I don't know. Just talking it out here, talking it out with you guys. Let's see. Maybe I just need to reassess how I'm clipping it on there. Maybe I need to cut a notch in it. Maybe the wire needs to go through it. The wire needs to go through it. I don't think the wire needs to go through it. Got the bottom latched. We just need the top to latch. And it is just ever so slightly in the way there. Dang. Looking at the motor, if you look at it at this angle, this notch is closer to the edge than this one is. There's a thinner gap here, and there's a little cutout right there. I never noticed in the motor mount. That's probably where the wires need to go. So I'm going to unscrew this and rotate it. Okay, we went ahead and moved the motor to where the cable comes out of the side. So let's take another crack at sliding this thing in there. Mesh is okay, but I would like it a little more snug. I'm wondering if there's anything I can do about the mesh real quick. Okay, so we've got the motor locked in place with the original clip. It kind of pinches those wires. It's a real snug fit, but it seems to be okay. And the mesh is nice and tight. Push this pinion back just a bit. Better look at that mesh. It's a little loose, but it is actually pretty snug in there. This clip seems to hold it on just fine. And again, the motor wires, it's a snug fit, but they seem to be okay. So we've got that in there. Now, we just need to, where did that come from? Okay, that probably goes there. Got too many wires and too much stuff going on. Now that we've got the brushed motor installed, we've got the servo adapter, I think we should plug it all in and just give it a test run before we figure out how we're going to snug all this stuff up. So just wedge the battery right there for now. Okay. I'm going to zoom you guys out. So it's definitely not a finished product. And that is some twitchy steering. It's crazy. But the brush motor is working. Nice slow crawl control out of it. Yeah, that's not bad at all. Ooh. That steering servo's nuts though. Wonder if there might be settings in the app. I haven't opened up the Furitek app yet, but from what I can tell, things are going pretty smooth. So let's get a better look at that brushed motor over here. Nice slow control. Look at how slow we can make that thing run, guys. That is awesome. Or we can get quite a bit of speed out of it. Okay, so one last look at what I got going on here. So I went ahead and bolted this tray back in place where the ESC board sat inside of. Right here was inside that tray. I didn't put the lid back on because I don't think I need the lid on there, and it has this bump that'll be in the way. But I did do that because you need this tray. It has the threaded part that holds these screws in the frame, which hold the rear bumper on. So if you want the rear bumper on, you gotta put this tray back in. There's a little cutout where the 5-wire used to run through, so that was handy. Just went ahead and tucked that up in there. And then I zip tied everything together in just a little bundle on top, which is no big deal. The wires don't weigh much. I'm okay with it being up high, and the body has more than enough space to get across this. Second thing I did was I took the receiver and I just wedged it between these two frame rails here for the battery tray. The actual battery I'm using won't fit in there. I would have liked to have had it up front for a front weight bias, but the receiver fits in there nicely. Just wedged it in there, sits perfect. And then the battery, this one that I have, the 900 milliamp hour Urgenix, which I like to run on the SCX24s because they last forever. These things are awesome. Actually fits perfectly between these two standoffs here for the suspension. It'll actually sit right in there. Wedge it in place. It's like it was meant to be. It fits so perfect in there. Nice and solid. You can just move this wire slightly out of the way right there. Body clip can go on without it being in the way. If you really want to be anal about it, you can kind of tuck it under the thing right there, but it's definitely out of the way. And all I have to do is plug it in, and we're good to go. We're rolling. And then the body just clips right back on over the top of all this. Put the little antenna right there. Now I just gotta, I have to slide the receiver back a bit in that tray. So I had to slide the receiver back in the tray a little bit because these standing up were getting in the way of the body, but now it should just snap right on. What else am I rubbing on now? Let's see. Batteries out of the way. It's gonna work. Oh yeah. Alright, so battery just snapped right on. Or the body, I mean. You see the battery's still sitting right here, nice and wedged between those. And we're good to go. Let's go climb some. So I went ahead and set up some rocks. We're gonna test this thing out. Definitely has much more slow control now. Might need to go into the settings and figure out why it's doing that It's got like that ticking to it almost, where it's not quite running smooth, and maybe it could just be because of the slow speed, but it does kind of have like a da-da-da-da-da-da-da beat to it as it runs. The twitchy steering is also kind of goofy, but it's quick. These tires have no foams in them, and with this added weight of this battery now, they definitely buckle a little and flex, but seems to be doing okay. Nice. But yeah, like any Furitek conversion, obviously the slow control is just out of this world. Now I do wish I had some high clearance links for this thing. The drive shafts do hang a little lower than the links there in the front, right by the axle. You can see how it kind of hangs a little lower here. So there are some obstacles that these thinner tires are going to have trouble getting over. The servo isn't very strong. It's much faster now, but it doesn't mean it got any stronger. So I worry that putting heavier, bigger tires on it would probably not work very well. But let's run this again. I'll do it with a little more effort. It definitely crawls well though. I mean, right up and over all that. In comparison, let me grab the 4Runner Kyosho and see how it does stuff. So here's the Kyosho Mini Z 4x4 4Runner. Yes, the weight distribution is a little different on this body, but it should be pretty much the same. And it gets over it just fine. Let's go the other direction with it, and then we'll try the Jeep again. Let's just see how slow we can crawl with this. So its slowest crawling is right about there, which is still kind of quick, and obviously it doesn't have the torque that the brushless one does, so you kind of have to burp it over obstacles. It's not as smooth, but still very, very capable truck. I'll have to tinker with the settings in the app to see if I can get that to smooth out. Yeah, that's what you're really going for with the Furitek conversion, is that kind of control when it comes to the speed. Nice and slow. All right. And one more time back over the other direction. Couldn't quite make it. Ooh, there it is. Gotta pick my line better next time, but it hopped right up there. I got a lot more speed out of this thing too when I want it. So that's cool. Let's see what it does here. Some of that clicking is the tires rubbing on the fender there, but nice slow control. Awesome. So the Furitek conversion on the Kyosho Mini Z, is it worth it? Meh. I mean, I do like the slow crawl control. I really need to work with the weight balance on this thing, try and find a better spot for the battery. I know there are some people who like 3D print and make these battery tray delete kits so that you still have a post to mount the shock to, and I could probably mount the battery up front, which would really help with the front and rear weight bias. But overall, it's a cool product. It is cool to do a conversion like this. I still have a lot of fun with my stock Kyosho. I definitely Turn that off. Definitely don't have any problems with it. It is a little underpowered, that's for sure, and this gives it a whole hell of a lot of power that it desperately needed. Now I wish the aftermarket marketplace for the Kyoshos was a little stronger. I know Kyosho itself makes a lot of metal upgrades and parts for these, and there's a lot of overseas companies that do that as well, obviously based out of Japan for the Kyosho market. It's hard to get stuff over here for a decent price and sometimes hard to find things in stock, but I'm going to keep an eye out, see what other upgrades we can do to this. If someone asked me if they have a Kyosho Mini Z 4x4 and asked me if they should do the conversion, I would say for right now, I'm not 100% sure it's worth it. It is a cool product. It definitely gives you more power, more control, but the twitchy nature of the steering servo, we'll have to see how long that lasts. If the servo doesn't burn out, you know, if it continues to work well and Furitek comes out with more updates to maybe give control to the steering servo through the ESC management or through the application, just to try and fix that twitchiness and that constant buzzing it makes, that would be good. But other than that, I like it, I enjoy it. I wish I could run the light kit, but these things come stock without lights anyways, so no harm, no foul. Let me know what you guys think down below. Do you think it's worth it? Are you gonna do it? Was it helpful? Leave me a comment, let me know. I'll see you guys in the next video.